this show is not to open back the old wound, but we just want to honor the sacrifice of the South Vietnamese soldier, and also the American soldier that is side by side with the Vietnamese soldier. It's remind us why we're here.
Yes.
And as a Vietnamese refugee right now, without the sacrifice that, you know, the soldier, American and Vietnamese soldier, we're not going to have today successful, many stories successful of the younger generation, Vietnamese generation.
Sure.
So what message you want to send to the young generation now?
Well, one of the things I hope, most Americans don't understand Asian culture and the Confucian aspects, you know, filial piety and respect for elders and all that. The thing that when you study the Vietnam War is there was an exodus from North Vietnam to South Vietnam in 1954, and at least a million people fled south. There would have been more, but the communists stopped them, right?
Yeah.
And people don't realize that Vietnamese culture is a roots culture. They stay on the land and they honor their relatives and ancestors. So for the Vietnamese to move from the north to the south, it had to be a big deal.
Right.
It's not like moving from New York to Mississippi.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a big deal, and that's a sacrifice. And then for them to do it 21 years later, that's just unheard of. Americans, I'm not trying to say Americans are bad, because I certainly am the biggest wimp out there. But I mean, we don't fully appreciate those sacrifices. And what? We know at least 250,000 people died as boat people. The numbers, no one quibbles. It's between 250 and 400,000. There could be more. When you hear the stories of pirates and all those things, it makes my blood boil. But again, the people that came were the risk takers. So I feel like we got the best out of Vietnam. The best Vietnamese came to the United States because they're risk takers. And when they got here, the things that would set me back were nothing. So I would never bet against the Vietnamese. They've done so well.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, in the 20th century, the Cubans went through something I don't think nearly as difficult. I'm not knocking them. They only came 90 miles, and they didn't have that level of death and destruction. Again, not knocking the Cubans, but the Vietnamese story is pretty unique.
Right.
Pretty unique. And the American Jews too. But again, the Vietnamese story is really exceptional. And I think the young people really need to grab on to their grandparents if they're still alive, certainly their parents, and learn those stories and understand that skateboarding and all the cool things we can do here, being on your iPhone or whatever, is
and for those who are not watching the movie, they should go
well,
to
I mean, it's
just,
one,
yeah.
but I mean,
And
the message
many.
is true.
Right.
So many, and not just movies. I mean, I can remember as a boy growing up in the 60s and 70s on so many television shows, they would have
Right.
American Vietnam veterans, and they were crazy. You know, they were, again, they suffered from PTSD. They didn't call it that then, but there was something bad about them, and they were
Right.
always somebody to feel sorry for
Right.
instead of people to be proud of.
Yeah.
And that bothers me.
Right.
Yeah.
So one last question. If you going to make this movie today, would you do anything different than you did before?
Well, I wouldn't do it again. I wouldn't do it again.
And the reason
Oh,
is?
you know, there were some things I would have included that we didn't include. We had some film of Walter Cronkite from the Tet Offensive of 1968, where he said, and this never made the air. We were able to, but we didn't put it in. And that's the one thing I regret. It was low film quality, but he basically said that communists lost, and it was a victory, but that didn't pass. No, you can't overstate how evil communism is based on the Vietnamese experience. Because what would make a person risk their lives? And you see photos where when the boats were out, mothers trying to hand their children up to American sailors and say, "Take my kids." I mean, who would do that? Only somebody super desperate who understands what was awaiting them. And we dismiss this as a civil war. The communists were not good guys. Ask him. And dies, 17 years.
Yes.
I mean, if Americans get upset if their coffee's not warm enough, right? I mean,
Right.
it's just unbelievable.
We got spoiled here.
Yeah, we're spoiled and we're soft, but the fight, freedom isn't free.
Right.
And this generation knows it, and that's why I think the young American Vietnamese need to really grasp what their parents and the culture went through and the price they paid to get here.
Chị Hạnh có hỏi ông rằng là nếu trường hợp bây giờ mà ông phải làm cuốn phim này lại thì ông có làm cái gì nó khác hơn không? Ông nói là nếu bây giờ tôi phải làm lại cuốn phim, tôi vẫn thực hiện cuốn phim này như vậy, nhưng có thể tôi có thêm một vài chi tiết cần thiết nữa, là đó là cái cuộc tổng công kích Tết Mậu Thân 1968 của Cộng sản, là tôi nên thêm vào trong cuốn phim này để cho mọi người nhìn thấy rằng là cái sự mà không phải là vô nhân đạo của Cộng sản lúc bây giờ xâm chiếm miền Nam đâu, nhưng mà đây là những cái biến cố đã xảy ra trong cái đất nước này, để cho mình nhìn thấy rằng có những cái biến cố như vậy đó, thì ông có thể sẽ thêm vào những cái biến cố này, và đồng thời ra sẽ có một vài những cái chi tiết khác nữa, ông có thể ông thêm vào cuốn phim thôi, nhưng mà nội dung chính của cuốn phim thì ông vẫn giữ lại nó giống như vậy.
Dạ vâng. Và thưa quý vị, thật sự ra khi mà quý vị đi xem cái cuốn phim này, giống như em mà đã coi cái phim này, khi lần đầu tiên em coi cái phim này thì phải nói rằng rất là xúc động, bởi vì khi mà ba em kể về những cái câu chuyện về người tù đó, thì mình không có tưởng tượng ra là nó như thế nào. Và cái hình ảnh mà người mẹ, hai vợ chồng mà ngồi trong cái lúc mà mình đi thăm tù đó mà không có được nắm cái bàn tay của người chồng, rất là đau đớn.
Với lại ông có nói thêm một chi tiết excuse me, nói thêm một chi tiết nữa là những hình ảnh mà làm cho ông xúc động đó, mà ông nghĩ rằng có thể bỏ thêm vào cuốn phim, đó là những hình ảnh của những cái thuyền nhân. Ông nói rằng không có hình ảnh nào mà nó xúc động hơn hình ảnh của người mẹ giơ cái đứa bé lên cho thủy thủ Mỹ rằng cứu con tôi, không nghĩ tới thân mình nữa, chỉ nghĩ tới đứa bé thôi. Thì đấy là hình ảnh của ông, nó là vô cùng xúc động trong cái cuộc chiến Việt Nam.
So Mr. Richard, on behalf of VCAL TV, thank you so much for being here today, and because of you, because you're very brave to make the movie, because it's cost so much money, I know, and you would never make money on a movie like this too, but because of the movie, we can see what reflect on our old times, so our kid, our grandkid can see it. And like I said, when I watched the movie the first time, even though my dad would told me about the re-education camp, I still very hard to imagine how it is. And when my mom visits my dad, they can't even touch their hand.
Yeah, unbelievable.
It's just a true story.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
I'm hoping. I know that you're not going to make more money, more movie anymore, more movie, but maybe it's a different topic about Vietnam, you know, lifestyle, whatever it is in the future. So I don't know that would be something that you're thinking of in the future.
I have some friends. My friend Colonel Jean Castagnetti is married to a lovely Vietnamese woman, Nina Nguyen, and they were involved. Americans know who Jim Webb is. Jim Webb was an American Marine officer in Vietnam, a wonderful, I mean, this guy was a real warrior, and plus he was a senator, and he's just an amazing American man. He was responsible for bringing the bodies of 81 airborne soldiers back to the United States. Nina and Jean have asked me to write a book. I don't know much about that story, but if I'm going to do something, I'd love to do it about
we look forward to that.
We'll see. I don't know if I have it in me.
You know,
I'm old now.
Yeah, so. No, if you say so, I'm sure a lot of people will put their hands together for you.
Well, I'm not looking for money. I just want to honor these people because.
No, I understand, because when you make this movie, Ride the Thunder, you know, it's have to come from your heart, not from something else.
Thankful that it was done.
Yeah, thank you so much.
My pleasure.